Okay, the first thing we're going to do here is remove the fender. Got 4 bolts on the fender. One here, 2 on the other side. These take a 6mm Allen wrench and also a 14mm nut on the back side. So, try to show you here what we're going to do. We're just going to take those out. We're going to take all those bolts off. And that's going to get the fender out of the way for us. Now I kind of leave this back bolt in just so it doesn't fall down when I take these other ones off. Kind of acts like an extra hand over there so it doesn't fall down. They come off pretty easy, nothing hard. Kind of watch the fender. What you got to want to watch is back here in the spoiler area, for the front spoiler, that it doesn't drop down and hit it. Pull those bolts out and just kind of jiggle the fender off. Just kind of tip it out towards the front. And that's it. That's how you take the fender off. Not too bad. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to remove the calipers. One on this side, one on the other side. You have 2 bolts here. 8mm bolts, Allen socket. So you just want to break them loose. Nothing's going to fall apart, come apart. Ball bearings falling on the floor, nothing like that. Pretty easy. If you notice, I'm not doing anything on a jack yet. You have to jack it up later, but I don't know, I just kind of like to do it on the floor here. It's everything secure still. If you don't have a real good jack, if you have a cheap Harbor Freight jack or something, doing it on the floor is probably a little bit easier. You take these bolts out, and the caliper should just come right off. I guess just like that. The one thing you want to do, or make sure you don't do, is don't squeeze the brakes. Not that you would. But if you have anybody helping you or anything, kids, anything, don't squeeze the brakes, because what you'll do, you'll squish these together. You'll squish the brake pads together, and gets to be a little bit of a pain. So just kind of leave it go. So once you have that side off, I'll show you the other side here. You're going to just do the same thing. It's also a good time to check your brake pads. If you need to replace them, you can do that. Just jiggle that back off and it pulls right off. For those of you who don't know, these are your brake pads in there. So these ones look pretty good. You still have plenty of meat left, plenty of pad. You want to look at this distance right in here. That's if that's real thin, then it's time to replace the pads. So that's the next step. Okay, now the next thing you're going to want to do is jack the bike up. Now's the time to jack it up. So I just put it up on a jack. Get enough space under the wheel so you have a little room to work underneath. You're going to want to take this axle bolt out. Right there. Now I use a 5/8 Allen socket. It's just what I had on the shelf here. It works. You'll see mine's pretty huge. Obviously you don't need anything this big, it's just what I had. So you have 2 axle pinch bolts here that are the 6mm Allen sockets. You want to loosen both of those up first. You don't have to take them all the way out. Just loosen them up, because that's what clamps your axle together. So put your socket in there. This comes out actually pretty easy. It's just threaded into the other side. I'll show you here. Down here, that's the other end of the axle. So it's just like a real long bolt in there. So all you got to do is just take that out. When you unscrew that out, then the wheel's going to kind of drop down. So not a big deal. You just got to kind of hold it when you're doing it. But unscrew this out of there and just kind of hold the wheel up, and you'll see it come out just like a bolt. There's some spacers and stuff in there. Just kind of watch. So you get it out, hold up on the wheel, just pull that out. Now the wheel's kind of heavy, so be careful. Let the wheel drop down, and then just pull the wheel out. It's that simple. That's how you take the wheel off. You can see in the forks, there's nothing easy as that. Okay, so what we got here, you probably noticed we moved the bike over to the lift just because we have a bunch of other work to do on this bike. And one of the things we're going to do is the fork tubes. So we got it jacked up here. You'll see a lot of stuff's off. You don't need to do that for this. It's just, like I said, we're in the process of doing something else, so it was a good time to make a video. Well, what you're going to want to do is you want to loosen these triple tree bolt clamps. You have one up here at the top, and you have 2 down here at the bottom. Now this is a cross-roads bike, but a cross-country is the same way. You just have a lot more junk with the fairing and everything to get to, but you do it the same way. So these bolts are a 6mm Allen. So you just want to loosen them up. You can take them all the way out, or you don't have to. You just really want to get them loose. That's the only thing you need to do here. Now you'll see it's still in there pretty tight. So what I like to do, this is where if you have a helper, but if you see up in the top here, there's a crack here. There's a crack in both of these. If you kind of wedge a screwdriver in there and just pry that, and you see that prying a little bit, you can wedge one in there and hold it, or that's where a helper, if you have a helper to help you do that. But you kind of wedge that in there, and don't pull real hard, but wedge one in the bottom. And you see the fork, as soon as I opened it, that fork will slide right out. Just open that, just jiggle it, and the fork comes right out. It's that easy. So we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. It's identical to that side. You just have your 2 bolts. On the bottom and the 1 bolt up on the top. And you can see no oil, nothing comes out of these things. You're not taking them apart, you're just taking them out of the triple tree. And instead of fighting, and see, you can pull this down. You can do it without spreading that apart. But it's just so much easier if you spread that apart. As soon as you pop that, it'll come right out. And that's all there is to it. So now we'll go over on the bench and we'll show you how to put the fork tube covers on. Okay, so these are the fork tubes we're going to put on this bike. like I said, we have a bunch of styles, but this is the Gunner style that's going to go with this bike. He has the Gunner pedals on there, the Gunner shift levers, all that, so we're keeping that same theme going. Now when you get your fork tubes from us, you're going to notice that one fork tube is smooth on each end. Both ends is the same. That's the upper fork tube. The other one, you're going to notice, has an indent down in here where it's been machined a little thinner. That's the bottom fork tube, and that recess goes towards the bottom. So when you're putting these together, make sure you get that right or you're going to have trouble getting them together. So they're real easy to do. You just take your fork, have it with that bottom, slide it on, put it straight down. Easy as that. Now we're not going to tighten the set screws up until we're all done. So it just slides on just like that. Now when you go to put it in the triple tree, you're going to want to take your upper tube and put it in there first, okay? Then you're going to want to pop your fork up through. And again, this is where you maybe need a helper. You need to spread that fork. You can do it and you can force it, but it's so much easier this way. Put a screwdriver in there, force that, and you'll see it goes right up in. It's that easy. So again, we're not going to tighten these up yet. Now the one thing that's neat about this, and I know some guys have done it, one thing you can do is if you're creative, you can see the aluminum fork tube behind here. The one thing you can do is if you want, say you have some red on your bike, you can spray these fork tubes red first, and then when you put our Gunner tube on there, you'll see the red behind there, and it gives you a real cool look. You can see all the contrasting colors. And you don't have to be fancy, you can just spray paint it with a spray can because most of it you're covering. You don't have to worry about runs or anything like that because you really can't see it. So that's all we're doing. We're just putting that in there like that. Now you're going to want to come back and you're going to want to tighten up the pinch bolts. And the other thing, once you put it all the way in there, it'll stop. There's a built-in stop up here. If you look at the fork tube, and I'll show you on the other one, it's machined down. So as long as you put it all the way up in there tight all the way, you can't really do it wrong. So you want to just snug these triple tree bolts up. That way nothing's going to fall out, drop back down. So you just want to snug these up. Okay, and we're going to do the other side the same way. Now this is what I was telling you about, this recess up here. You see how it's machined thinner here and thicker here? When you slide that up in the triple tree, you're going to slide it up all the way. So you really can't goof it up. It's really pretty easy. So again, take a look at this. Get the one that's got the recess in it. It goes down. And what the recess is doing is it's going over this hump here. You're going to want to spread the triple tree. I should have had that screwdriver in there first. That'll keep it kind of spread. And again, this is really one of those, if you have a helper, there you go. If you have a helper, that works so much easier. Now the same thing, just tighten your bolts back up. You can start to see how it gives you kind of a really cool look. Witchdoctors is the only one that offers this style to go along with all the other parts with that Gunner series. So snug your triple tree bolts back up. Make sure you torque them. You guys that like to torque stuff, make sure you torque them and look in an owner's manual. So what you want to do is you want to now just kind of turn these fork tubes so you can't see the set screws. And it really doesn't matter. Just turn them towards the back, turn them towards the center, wherever you want them so that you can't see it. And the one thing that I know caught me one time, I had the handlebars this way and I put everything where you couldn't see it, but then when I straightened the handlebars out, it was wrong. So make sure you have your handlebars straight when you do that, or you're just going to have to come back and do it again. So you're going to want to just tighten those set screws up and you'll be all set. Then all you have to do is put the wheel back on, the fender back on, just the same way you took everything apart. Gives you a really cool look. And on this bike we're using one of our custom front wheels and a custom fender, so we'll show you what that'll look like here in a minute. Put this fender on. So we already got the mounting blocks and everything on. You're just going to slide the fender in there, and you can actually kind of rest it on the tire as an extra hand. Just kind of twist it back. And you take the bolts that they give you in the kit. If you poke the bolt through, if you can see, I put the wrench in the bolt. If you poke the bolt through here, like you can see, it helps you line stuff up a little bit better. And this is one of those jobs, if you have a buddy, you know, to help you do this, it does make it a little bit easier. These fenders are kind of heavy. They're real high quality, thick metal. So they are kind of heavy. And the other thing you can do too, and it's just personal preference, you can mount these blocks to the triple tree first and then bolt your fender in. It really doesn't matter how you do it. You just want to get both of them in there. And like I say, don't tighten the bolts up all the way until you have them all in. You know, get them fairly on there, but don't tighten them all the way. See, everything's still kind of loose. That way, if we need to move anything to get the bolts to line up, we can. So you just basically put those in. We'll go around, we'll do the other side. And hopefully off this video you can see changing your front wheel to a 21 inch is really not that difficult with our kit. We're not using any fancy tools. You might say, why is the bike on the lift now from where we started with the video? Well, this bike, we're doing a bunch of different things to this bike. That's why you kind of see no lower spoiler. We're painting that, doing a bunch of different things on this. So, okay, so once you get all four of those bolts in, you can go ahead and snug them up. If you're really concerned, you can maybe put a drop of blue Loctite on there, you know, so they don't vibrate loose. You really shouldn't need it if you tighten the bolts up good, but you know, it won't hurt. Inside fender bolts here, those are 1/2 inch. You can tighten those up now. And if you missed what I said before on these fenders, these are the highest quality fenders I have ever seen for a Victory. They require almost no body work whatsoever. You just basically scuff them and paint them, which will save you a ton of money if you can't do it yourself. We offer the paint service, you know, here in-house to paint it for you, so you can actually get our kit wheel, tire, the tire mounted, balanced. We use Dynabeads, painted fender, so you can get the whole kit. And when you get it, you can put it on. But basically, that's all there is to it. You have plenty of clearance under here. You can, if you guys are creative, you can take this and cut this, you know, to different shapes or whatever. I've seen some guys go along the edge and drill holes in it to give you that contrast kind of a look type thing, just doing it themselves. But it's a really heavy duty steel fender. You won't have any problem with vibration. You won't have any problem with it cracking down here. This is super, super high quality, the best on the market. So basically, that's all there is to it. So you've seen how, from start to finish, how to take your stock wheel off, stock fender off, how to put on our Witchdoctors wheels. We offer a whole bunch of different designs for cross bikes, visions. If we have a design on the website, if it's something you don't see, we can make it for you, both chrome and contrast cut. So we offer a package deal as well as individual. So that's basically cross country wheel, 21 inch, easy as that. Thanks for watching.